suspicious, and Boyd had told Detective Ray Morgan as much the day after Josh died. Josh had left a brief but excited message for Boyd, saying he'd cracked the investigation into their birth parents wide open, but that the situation needed to be handled delicately, extremely delicately. The next day, his twin had been found dead in his vehicle. Boyd's gut told him the two events were connected. Fortunately, Morgan and his supervisor, Sergeant John Quigley, weren't big believers in coincidence either. They'd upgraded the file to a suspicious death and promised to look into it while Boyd went back to Ontario to deal with the funeral and lawyers and such. 10 days later, forensic toxicology was still pending, and the cops hadn't found any smoking guns, so it was still just a suspicious death. Now that the funeral was over, Boyd had come back to look into matters himself. He'd hated to leave his parents, but he was terrified the coroner's office was going to put a death by natural causes stamp on the file and effectively shut the investigation down before it even got started. But damn it, Josh had only been 35. Men that young didn't tend to expire from sudden cardiac arrest. Not ones who were as fit as Josh had been anyway. He just wouldn't wrap his head around the idea of natural causes, not when his gut was screaming that this was connected to whatever hornet's nest Josh had stirred up with that damned investigation. He decelerated the rental car as he approached the intersection of Regent and Prospect, and the big H sign for the regional hospital caught his attention. Since he was so close, he decided to go there first instead of the police station. The hospital was where the declaration of death had been made before Josh's body was shipped to St. John for the forensic autopsy. Boyd had a power of attorney in his bag, as well as a certified copy of the will appointing him executor of Josh's estate. Boyd might have been the older brother, by all of 17 minutes, but Josh had always been the organized one, prepared for any eventuality. Even dropping dead, as it turned out. The point was, armed with all that paperwork, he would have access to Josh's medical records. He also had the name of the ER physician who'd declared Josh. Maybe he'd stop by the ER to try to catch him. It was a long shot, but maybe something stuck out in the doc's memory that might be helpful. And on that happy thought, he pulled into the hospital's paid parking area, killed the rented Altima's engine, and climbed out. Time to start this investigation. Hayden Walsh chewed the inside of her lip as she studied her patient's lacerated hand. To call for a plastic surgeon or not? There didn't look to be much nerve involvement, if any. And if there wasn't, she'd get reamed out for calling for a plastics consult. Last time, she'd been told in no uncertain terms that they weren't a suture clinic and to learn to do her own damn stitches. She could suture just fine, thank you. She stitched up most of the lacerations that came her way, but this one wasn't so straightforward. She'd feel better about getting the go-ahead from plastics. Because if there was nerve involvement and she just sewed her patient up and sent him home, and he later alleged the hand was compromised because of her treatment, she'd be screwed. She would also no doubt get reamed out by the very same plastics guy for not calling for a consult. She studied the man's rough, calloused hand some more. He was clearly a laborer. Drywall installer, she'd guess, from the deep cracks on his fingers and the white dust on his hair and work clothes. Not a young one either. 51, his chart said. Probably not a lot of alternative careers for a laborer his age. So what do you think, Doc? Can you stitch me up? Maybe hook me up with some good meds so I can get back to work tomorrow?
We're going to get you stitched up all right, Mr. Martin, she assured him as she rewrapped his hand. But I'm going to call a plastic surgeon to have a look before we do. Better safe than sorry.
Damn. He looked crestfallen. I thought you were fixing to do it.
She grimaced. I know it's been a long wait to get seen, and now you have to wait some more. But you need both hands in your trade, I imagine. Better do everything we can to keep them both operational.
He grinned, the smile making his lined face look younger. Not complaining about the wait. I was just hoping you'd be the one doing the sewing. She lifted an eye.